Be fine. We are now joined by the presiding justice, District 1, Place 3 on the Mississippi Supreme Court, and a candidate to return to the Supreme Court. Jim Kitchens joins us. Jim, how are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing great, and thanks for the Willie Nelson intro there. I love him.
Well, you got to play people in properly. You know, you got to set the right mood before you talk about things. But before we get into the run and the candidacy, let's talk a little bit about your time on the Supreme Court. How has that been? It's continuously busy, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's a busy court. It's the highest court in our state, court of last resort, some call it. But we are busy all the time, but I enjoy it. It's good. It's good work. I'm honored to be there.
Well, it really is a demanding job, more demanding than some people, I think, might realize that it is. And now, on top of that, it's time to run for office and try to get another term on there.
Indeed. Every 8 years we do that.
So it's 8 years for Supreme Court justices.
Supreme Court and our Court of Appeals as well. Both of those have 8-year terms, which are the longest terms we have in our state government.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. That's kind of unusual because we're used to the every 4-year cycle for just about everything, but you guys get to skip every other one, which I don't think is a bad idea necessarily.
Well, it's sort of a compromise between lifetime appointments, which the federal courts have, and other offices that we have in the state. The idea is for us to have stability and continuity in our courts. Our terms don't all expire at the same time, so there's never a complete turnover in the Mississippi Supreme Court.
Which I think is ideal for the legal system. And you're right, it's a compromise, and I think it's a pretty decent compromise, it seems like.
I agree with you.
Now, what kind of cases come before the Supreme Court? Obviously, a lot of appeals and a lot of important decisions, right?
Indeed. We are an appellate court under our Constitution of Mississippi. Everything that we have at the Supreme Court has already been tried somewhere else. We never have witnesses. We don't have testimony. We don't have juries. Most of our cases come to us from the circuit courts. Over 70% come from the trial courts. The circuit court is the court of general jurisdiction at the trial level. And then second is Chancery Court. It's down in the high 20s, but about 72% on an average of a few years of the cases that we have received at the Supreme Court have come from the circuit courts from all over the state. We run in districts, as you indicated when you introduced me, but once we're there, once we're sworn in, we serve the whole state, and all 9 of us vote on every case.
So I would assume there's probably some healthy discussion about some of these cases when they come through.
Absolutely. We have a very active court. We have some really sharp people on our court, and we have a very, very good conversation. I think that's important. Diversity of opinion is important in the legal system. If we all agreed all the time, we wouldn't need but one justice.
That's a very good point, and I think that gets lost sometimes in the very contentious atmosphere that we have right now in the world. Difference of opinion is hugely important in things. It's not about being right. It's about coming to an agreement and getting the right outcome, right?
Right, and being guided by the Constitution and the laws. We take an oath that we will not respect persons in terms of treating one person better than another. We take an oath to treat the poor people as well as we do the rich people, and vice versa.
Well, let's talk about the campaign for just a moment. One thing that goes along with having a campaign is having a platform. What's your platform to be reelected to the Mississippi Supreme Court?
Well, we can't tell people how we would rule on particular cases. We're limited. If I were running for sheriff or if I were running for the legislature, I could tell the public what I plan to do and how I would deal with particular kinds of problems and situations. But on the courts, we don't do that. And it makes a lot of sense that we shouldn't be able to, because if we did, we would be prejudging cases that we'd never seen. But as far as a platform is concerned, my platform is honesty, integrity, dependability. I intend to continue doing just as I've been doing for almost 16 years now on the Supreme Court. I work hard. Nobody said I'm not doing a good job. Nobody said that I'm not qualified. And I plan to continue relying not only on the excellent staff we have and the lawyers that come to us and argue cases before us, but my experience, I think, is one of my greatest assets. I've been a member of the legal profession for a very long time. I've been on the Supreme Court. This is my second term, and I believe that when I see a case, I know that when I see a case, I can look back into my law practice, into the years that I was a district attorney, and I can draw parallels and I see things that I've seen before. I think that's a great advantage. I don't see how I could function as well as I do as a Supreme Court justice if I didn't have the experience I have, and all of the justices on our court are experienced people.
And, of course, that's one thing that I think everyone looks for when they're trying to make a decision for someone, is experience. Now, that experience, you mentioned something just then. It seems like it would be a decent-sized change to go from district attorney to Supreme Court justice in terms of what you're doing.
Well, that's a good point, but I didn't go straight to the court from being district attorney. I practiced law in the interim for right at 30 years. I was in private practice. I served for 9 years as a district attorney, returned to private practice, and represented Mississippi families with all kinds of problems that they had in the legal system for about 3 decades. And so I had been in the legal profession for over 40 years by the time that I asked the people to let me serve on the highest court. I thought that by then I had gotten the necessary experience, and the practice of law is a learning process. We don't know everything we need to know when we get out of law school, and the law is a constantly changing thing. So over time, one develops a better understanding of the law.
Well, the election coming up pretty quick here, and you're kind of getting down to crunch time. Are Supreme Court justices allowed to do much in the world of campaigning?
Yes, we can campaign, and we do campaign rather vigorously. I've been trying to get to all 22 of my counties as frequently as I can. I am not allowed to run under a party label. We are limited in many ways as to the kinds of campaigns we can run. I've already indicated to you that we can't make promises about what we're going to do in the future as justices, and we can't affiliate with political parties. We're all nonpartisan. That's been the law in Mississippi since 1995. All of our judges, except the Justice Court judges, all of us who run for office run as nonpartisan candidates.
And personally, I don't think that's a bad idea. Well, the election is coming up, as I said, less than 3 weeks, about 2.5 weeks away. Before we wrap this up, any final thoughts, any final words you want to put out to everybody, Jim?
Well, voting is not just an obligation, it's a privilege. And Americans need to vote. Everybody in Mississippi who's eligible to vote needs to vote. This is an important election. Every election is important, and no one should sit this one out. I hope that everybody will plan now to vote. And if you don't think you can get there on election day, you're entitled to vote absentee. So please don't forget this election on November the 5th.
Jim Kitchens, the presiding justice for District 1, Place 3 on the Mississippi Supreme Court. Appreciate your time today, and we'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We continue on the Gallo Show right after this. Keep it.